How you doing? How you doing? And how you doing, ladies and gentlemen? I hope you guys are enjoying your weekend out there, and I appreciate you stopping by today. If it's one of your first time catching one of my videos, the way that I kind of like to do things is treat my show like a live show. It basically means that we do it in one take and everything. It's not scripted like a live show probably is in hindsight. But I very much want my content to come across as, conversation, with a buddy that's giving you his honest take and everything. I think that when you stay away from doing a lot of editing, you keep a certain level of authenticity that is just about you as a person, that I want to come through in my content. So that's kind of the way that we do things. If you're looking for a highly edited, completely time-stamped guide, I'm super sorry. That's not what I do here. And I don't want to do that kind of stuff and come across as like, let me give you all the absolute facts. Because we ain't got them. But I'll tell you everything that I know and how I think that, you should interpret some things, use certain stuff. And that's kind of what we go for here. We're a new channel, and we're coming up on 5K, and I'm going to be a pretty happy boy. This is my first year doing YouTube, and, far from being an overnight success, but I've had so much success this year. There's a lot of people that try to do this and, don't hit 5,000 in their first year. So I am super, super thrilled. I absolutely love doing it. And if you want to, help support the channel and keep following this pretty face, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment. Let me know how your weekend's going. Or ask me any Genshin Impact questions that you have, and I'll do the best of my ability to answer them. One of the things that I want to touch on with this guy is something that I'm seeing that people are kind of missing. So when it comes to team compositions, typically the way that you should build most of your teams outside of for specific niche situations is 1 DPS and then 3 supports. Okay, I probably need to cut my fingernails. But that's the formation that you're typically going to have, or at least you should be trying to have. In the idea of like 1 DPS, so like that's the person that's out attacking, you know what I mean? That's going to be one of your primary sources of damage. Your other 3 characters are likely going to be there for their skills and abilities, things that you would switch to, pop, and then typically rotate through any other useful reactions you have before going back to your main DPS to continue carrying on the damage there. So, reason that I'm feeling the need to explain this is I made a meme the other day and tried to post it to Reddit, and it got yeeted off of Reddit, and I was super sad and kind of hurt by that because they just like to call everything they don't like low quality posts. That took me over an hour in Photoshop, bro. I don't know how you determine low effort or quality, but I did my best. Okay. But it was the change my mind meme with the goofy dude sitting at the desk sipping coffee. I know his name. I'm just not going to say his name on my channel. Fuck that dude. Anyways, I edited him out and everything. Put our boy Razor in there. And basically the sign read, I'm the budget Diluc. Change my mind. And a ton of people laughed at it and thought it was great. But there was a good number of people that were like, no, Bennett would be the person that, Bennett would absolutely be the budget Diluc. Bennett is an amazing support character. I have an entire video on Bennett and why that man deserves so much love. But he is not a DPS. He is a support character that can definitely do more DPS, like standard attack damage, than most other supports. And there are definitely situations where you can take advantage of that. But that man is not a DPS carry. That is not what his role is. So if you get overstuck on like elements and stuff like that, you're not really seeing team compositions as you should. Like this team right here isn't, I don't have 2 electro slots, a fire slot, and a hydro slot. I've got my main DPS, Razor, and then my 3 supports to boost this man up. So just want to make sure that that's hammered home for as many people as possible. Okay. But our boy here deserves so much love. So much love. And he doesn't get a whole lot. Like, he doesn't get a lot of recognition. People don't really think he's very useful or that his kit is very strong. And it's a very unique kit. So essentially the places that I like to use it the most is kind of... He can be a great support to someone that is like half a healer. I think that's the nicest way to say this. So if you're running Barbara in your team, you don't need any other defensive support, period. Like, Barbara's got that job completely covered. You know what I mean? But if you're, running Noelle or, oh god, Ninyuong, I know I pronounced that one wrong. Jesus Christ. I can't remember her full name, but the other rock chick that, can do some shielding and everything. Xingqui, is absolutely amazing when he is supporting essentially another support person, okay? So a couple of things, if you're not really sure how this man works, is his E, basically, you could try and use it as a hydro attack, or you could also just pop it in the field when you're nowhere near being able to hit anybody, and what you're getting from it is still super, super strong. So, essentially, you cast, I'm not trying to pronounce that. You cast your sword attack and everything. You do a little swipe, you fly up in the air real quick, come back down, and then you have 3 floating swords hanging around you, right? Boop, 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 boop. Alright, so what are those little swords doing? Let's go back to the talents. So, essentially, these are doing several things. Not just one thing. Homie's showing up with, like, a whole tool belt of kit right now. Alright? When a character takes damage, the rain sword will shatter, reducing the amount of damage taken. So we're getting damage reduction for those 3 on each of those 3 blades. Increases the character's resistance to interruption. Also pretty big. If you've played fighting games before and you know certain attacks for certain characters, you can get hit 2 or 3 times while you're going through the animation of that skill, and it won't interrupt you, and you'll be able to hit them. That's commonly referred to as like armor on a skill. So essentially, this increases each character's armor on their skills. It's harder for them to be interrupted when they're doing an attack. Actually, that is a huge reason why my current team, that when I use him, is essentially Razor and Bennett, because with Xingqi's E, I'm able to do both of these guys' E's without getting interrupted by most everything. Obviously, big bosses are still going to hurt, and wow, why did I do that to myself? Oh, Lord, I'm sorry, Bennett. You didn't deserve that. But both of these guys have really strong E's that can be, at times, situationally challenging to pull off. So being able to use the utility from just that alone can be huge in how you're able to control your characters and handle certain fights. So another reason why our boy's showing up to work. But that's also not all that skill does. We're not even done talking about his little floating swords. So the next thing that it does is 20% of Xingqi's hydro damage bonus will be converted to additional damage reduction for the rain swords. So that means all the hydro bonus that you have on this man further reduces damage. And it does have a cap. I want to say 24% is the highest damage reduction that you can get on it. But through artifacts and everything, like, you can potentially just stack, hydro damage if you want. I want to say, yeah, it's the middle slot, or the goblets that give you the ability to try and go for that. So we'll get into all of his artifact stuff in a second and everything. So there's one other thing that this skill does, and that applies the hydro effect to you. And then when you are fighting with other people, and I'm sitting here hitting a guy, for instance, he's going to get wet too, which then lets me try and, I can go for Vaporize with my Bennett, or Overcharge with him, and now I'm adding elemental interactions to my normal attacks and everything, which again is very impactful. So that's like 4 or 5 things just off this man's first skill alone. That's great. As far as, being a support, this man's an entire utility belt with just that skill. Everything else that he's got going on, nothing super crazy. So it's one thing that I want to touch on. His Q is decent. Like, it's definitely not bad when you're chaining a bunch of ultimate together. It slides in there real nice. Like, essentially, normal attacks will trigger consecutive sword rain attacks, dealing hydro damage. And you essentially maintain rain swords on the character throughout the entire time that you have that. So the important thing that I kind of want to hammer on when it comes to his elemental burst is it's not just a hydro attack that'll sit above your head and continuously attack things for you. You have to attack for those blades to go out. So for that, if you're combining with a bunch of other people's alts and then switching to your main DPS, you want to do your other two support alts first, then pop his, then go to your main DPS and start doing your attacks with him. Otherwise, you'll lose out on damage, essentially. If you pop him first and then have to wait for the time to cycle through two other characters and pop their abilities, by the time you get to your main, you've now wasted a quarter to half the time of the elemental burst. So just a little pro tip on that. You wanna wait to pop his second to last. If your DPS is your last elemental burst, you're popping. So just a little note on that. And then his rain sword also, when it shatters or its duration expires, it regenerates the character's current health, HP based on 6% of Xingqi's max HP. So that's now a fifth thing I believe that his first skill is doing. You're also getting healed from it. It is nowhere near enough healing for this man to be like your sole and only healer. But because you also get the heal from when its duration just expires, if you're just running around in an empty field, you can also just pop it, switch, and then switch to your guy that you need a little bit of health on. Because while you're running around and doing all your stuff and everything, when these fade, you should get a little bit of health back. So you can use it outside of combat to try and get a little bit of health. It's not a great or huge source of healing. That's why I say that Xingqi is great to use behind another support person that isn't a complete healer themselves. You know what I mean? So I absolutely love him for this team because I can still be as aggressive with my team, with this team, as I want to be. I do lose out a little bit on attack by bringing him in, but another team that I like to run him on, which is very good if you're trying to do content and you're dying. This team will just not, and you can kind of switch out Zengling and Amber for different DPS people. If fire is going to be not great for what you're going to go do, you can throw Lisa in there. Not Kaya, because that man, just go, get out of here, sir. But this team is so hard. Like, you have to try to kill your team if you're using Noelle and Xingqiu at the same time. Like, they just make your team so tanky. Between her shield and his damage reduction and healing on that, it's just gross. It's just absolutely gross. But the damage isn't as high. I'm using Amber on this team, basically with my boss killer build and everything, where she does really high weak point damage. And then the fourth slot is whoever I need as the DPS, whoever's going to be the most favorable elemental-wise and whatever I'm trying to run or do. So I kind of have my DPS role split a little bit, because Zengling would be absolutely awful against certain bosses. Whereas Amber would be great, but Amber also, I wouldn't use her just to attack everything, like, as she's my main DPS. Just no. But our boy's got a very impressive kit, and how the kits work is the most important thing about these characters. If you understand that, and are building upon and getting new experience with it, that's going to be a lot more valuable than, oh, hey, put these slots of gear on here. So that's why I wanted to focus on that first before we got into some of the artifacts and everything. So real fast, let's just go through the weapons. Because you are not really using him to be out and attacking constantly, kind of doesn't matter what weapon you're using on him. I'm using the increased damage against Hydro and Cryo enemies just to get a little bit more boost on his ultimate when I pop that, or his elemental burst. You could go with a couple of other ones. Not really. This would be a terrible one to put on him, just to show you what a bad decision looks like. You should not be using Xingqui to attack. Sorry, Xingqui to attack people. Like you shouldn't. So a weapon that's going to increase your damage per hit, not really effective because you're not hitting anybody. Skyrider Sword. If I didn't have this on people that I have this on people that I use a little bit more often, this man, but this would be a potentially viable one to pick as well. Just because you're using his Q a lot with him, it definitely doesn't hurt to have something that's going to boost one of the main 2 or 3 reasons you're using that man for anyways. So after that, kind of not, well, okay. Flip blades do not count. They do not count here. Those are world drops, not wish weapons. Wouldn't really recommend the Traveler's Sword. And Harbinger of Dawn would be absolutely useless to put on him, in my opinion. Because again, he's not really there for you to be doing DPS with. So we can brush through the weapons fairly quickly on this dude. Artifact-wise, you can see that I am rocking the Exile set, one of the most popular set for your support characters. Since you usually have 3 of them, it's not uncommon for you to basically be guaranteed to have at least one full Exile person on your team. I think I might have, no, it is just, I have him on this one, and then I have other people on Instructor that I'll use with him. So this guy, could you go with other builds with him? You could try and go Instructor, but Instructors and Elemental Mastery is really only going to increase your elemental interaction damage. It's not going to, benefit your E and have it create more damage reduction and everything. You might think that getting more elemental mastery will increase your hydro damage bonus. I do not believe that is the way that works. When we go and look at our stats and everything, look at some details, it gives us a pretty clear description of what it does. At no point does it say, oh, elemental mastery is also feeding into your individual elemental damage bonuses. That's a lot of words together to make sense. So, I've got the 5% here because I have the artifact with that on there. So elemental mastery, while you could go for it on this guy, isn't really going to do a whole lot. It's better served on the people that are going to be on the more aggressive end of interacting with his element. So like my official or my Lisa or Zhang Ling, you know what I mean? That's where we're going to get the bigger number from, and it's a little bit more worth putting it into them than it would be this man. For this man, honestly, I would recommend... we were testing a little bit, but to be honest with you, I would probably just go HP percent, and then you could upgrade this, but again, keep in mind that it has a cap, and again, I want to say that it's only 24% that you get, or the 24% is the cap for how much that can do, and you're only getting, I want to say, a certain percentage of the hydro damage bonus. I want to say 20% of that. So your 20% of your hydro damage can't exceed 24% damage reduction. So I don't know how much hydro damage bonus they're anticipating us to potentially be able to get at some point. But that's a little bit much. So yeah, it's just 20% of his hydro damage bonus will be converted to additional damage reduction. The maximum amount of additional damage reduction that can be gained in this way is 24%. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So I don't think that means all between the individual swords. Like 90% sure about that. But I think that's just across the board and everything. So trying to think if instead of, you could combine two pieces, especially if you are a little bit earlier in the game and you don't have as many exile pieces. You could pick up a 2-piece instructor and then again still preferably go for 2-piece exile if you can. Anything that will increase your energy recharge will make this man in the support role that he's filling that more useful. But again, a huge part of his kit just comes from his ease. I mean, the elemental burst is nice damage and everything, and it ties in well with other people you're likely to combine him with. But again, his E is really what is so impressive. Let me know if you guys have any questions. And I want to do another follow-up or another video on Noelle. And I don't know. We'll see. I'm definitely going to be making some more memes and posting those around to some stuff on Facebook. So if you happen to see a meme with a little Petty Parade watermark in the corner, I'm just out here trying to make memes. It'd be like that sometimes. Alright guys, I super appreciate your faces. I think we can go ahead and wrap it up there. Sorry that trailed off a little bit at the end, but I wanted to talk more about this man's kit and everything than specific, like, hey, here's the best gear slots that you can use for him. There's, at least at the point where I'm at in the game, which is AR 28, 29, somewhere around there, there's not really any other great ones for him yet. So if you're even earlier game than me, just try to get as much energy recharge as you can, boo. That's about all that I got for you. Oh God. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for stopping by today. It's been your boy Pat, and you have to catch me on the next one, cause we out of here. Deuces.